Hi, my name is Chef Todd Engstrom. I'm a culinary instructor here at San Jose State, and today we are going to review the basic cuts that will be required for Nutrition and Food Science 21, or Culinary Principles and Practices, for their first practical exam. So I'll go through and review those with you right now. First, we're going to do a couple of cuts with a carrot. We need to start off by taking off the top and bottom of our carrot and getting it peeled. So once we get our carrot peeled, we're going to put that into our scrap bowl, and the scrap bowl is for those things that we have in our kitchen that we can either compost or will go in the garbage, but generally nothing that we want to put into any products. So that is our scrap bowl. After we have our carrot peeled, we want to break it down into a size that we can actually manipulate a little bit easier. So we will cut it here and cut it here. This particular piece is a little bit small, so we will put that into our trimmings bowl, which we have right here. And our trimming bowl is for those items that we can use in the kitchen for other purposes, things like stocks or soups or mousses or things like that. The next thing we want to do with our carrot is we want to do what's called paring off the carrot. And this basically means that we want to cut this into a shape that allows us to manipulate it and to do some finer cuts. Right now it's round and kind of awkward, so we want to square things off or pare things off, in other words. So the first cut I make on one side, and I'll turn the carrot over so we have a flat carrot that's a little bit more stable. This item will go into our trimmings bowl. We'll then cut another side and rotate the carrot once again. Cut another side and rotate the carrot one more time. And finally, we end up with a piece that's a little bit more easy to manipulate and to do some of our more basic cuts. So now that our carrot is pared off, we are going to proceed with our julienne cut. In our julienne cut, we want to take a thin slice of this carrot like this. So we have fairly thin slices. Then we're going to go down and make a real thin cut like this. And this is a julienne cut. Normally in a production kitchen, you would be doing this a lot faster. For our purposes here today, I'm going to do it a little bit slower so we can have a more representative cut of our carrot. And you can see this is a julienne cut of carrot. For our next cut, we are going to make some julienne cuts and then cut those across and turn that into what we call a brunoise, or a very small dice. So we have our julienne cut of carrot here now, and we're just going to get those all together here, even them up, and cut straight across. So we end up with a very small dice of carrot, or what is also known as brunoise. A lot of the times brunoise cuts are used for garnishing. Sometimes they're incorporated into garniture into different recipes. Most of the time when you're doing a cut like this, it's to accent something and is not necessarily meant to be cooked down to a great extent. This is our brunoise of carrot. For our next cut, we're going to do what's called a paysanne. A paysanne basically means, in French terms, a little tile. So we start off with our carrot by paring it off once again. I have my carrot now pared off. And we're going to cut that into a shape called a bâtonnet. So this is a bâtonnet, and we're going to cut across the bâtonnet and cut it into our paysanne shape. So they look basically like little tiles. This is similar to a brunoise in that it's used for a lot of different types of garniture. So basically an exact shape that's used to highlight a dish and make it more visually pleasing. For our next cut, we're going to do a large dice. So we got our carrot peeled again with the peelings going into our scrap bowl. We're going to pare off our carrot one more time. And then we'll take this cut and cut it into a large dice. Now this particular cut, a large dice, we do use in various recipes and incorporate it into things, and it's not used as much for garniture or garnish, but more as a main ingredient in a recipe. For our fifth and final cut today, we're going to do a medium dice of onion. So we have our onion here. We want to take off the bottom end. That will go into our scrap bowl. cut our onion in half. Take the peel off. And so we want to take our onion and have the root end away from us. And we're going to make some slices at an angle at first, not quite all the way to the end of the onion. So it would kind of go like this motion and end up at an angle over here. So it'll be something like this. Just make sure you don't cut all the way to the end. So basically it looks like that. Okay. Then we're going to simply cut straight across the onion. You can also do one cut like this, not all the way through, which will help kind of break up the pieces. It's not absolutely necessary that you make that cut, but it can be helpful. And we simply want to cut now straight across. And this, once again, the top of the onion, we can use in our trimming bowl. Or, if you want to use all of the onion, you can come up and make another cut like so to the very end of where the root is. Cut across and kind of trim your onion up like that. Now these pieces aren't nearly exact as my first pieces, as you can see here, but you get more yield out of your onion if you do that. As you can see, these pieces from the root end aren't as nicely shaped as the ones I started with. Both are acceptable. And that's our 5 basic cuts that you will need for your first practical exam. So let's review the cuts that we did today. And once again, these will be on Nutrition and Food Science 21, or Culinary Principles and Practices, their first practical exam. We have our brunoise cut here, or very, very small dice. We have our paysan cut here, or our little tiles. Okay. We have our large dice of carrot, our julienne of carrot, and we have here also our medium dice of onion. One of the important things to remember in doing these knife cuts isn't that they are exact as far as the measurements that are in your textbook. You want them close to those measurements, but what's most important is the cuts are as uniform as possible, meaning they're all the same shape and size. This is important for 2 reasons. The first reason and primary reason is that so they'll all cook at the same rate. Okay. The second reason is basically for visual appeal. Your dish just basically looks better if your cuts are nice and uniform. So those are our 5 basic cuts for your first practical exam.